Hello and welcome back to MDG Media. This is round 1 front 9 MPO feature card coverage of the 2025 Ale Open, a Disc Golf Pro Tour Europe Elite Series event and an exciting moment where the best players from around the world are converging here in Gothenburg, Sweden to compete on the biggest scale. I'm Connor Wood and with me, Elias Luukkonen.
What's up, Connor? What's up, viewers? And I very much agree with what you said. I feel like more and more Americans are coming over to Europe as the season goes further and further towards the majors. We're gonna have 2 majors later this season in Europe, and building up to that is gonna be amazing.
And the card is fantastic today. European legend KJ Nybo, Danish champion, long-time figure in European disc golf. Truly a legend. If there's someone for the European Hall of Fame, he's right up there.
Talking about Hall of Fame, a player making a Hall of Fame career for sure, Ricky Wysocki. Couple of World Championship titles under his belt, looking for another Elite Series win in Europe.
Last year's 2024 Ale Open champion Daniel Davidsson already has a win as well at the Scottish Open DGPTQ Series just some weeks ago. He's poised for a good finish here.
And last Elite Series events winner Mauri Villmann destroyed the field in Konopiste, averaging a whopping 13 under par. Just incredible plays. We're starting off the round on a difficult yet very gettable par 3, 145 meters, OB left and right, with the log configuration on the edge of the fairway. If you're on top of the log, that counts as the OB line, so you have to be inside on the short grass. It's going to play really nice for a big overstable hyzer. Distance of 145 meters doesn't really do justice today, as there's a bit of a right to left wind, actually making this whole play much shorter. Actually have to throw about 125 to reach it.
Easy, we're muted. We can leave some good silence now while they do player intros.
Yeah. Add wall stuff like that might be in your way. You can take 1 meter backwards from them. We have 2 scorekeepers for you, and we're also going to have a marshal to join you. But you need a... Yeah, I know.
Okay, it's time for the feature card of Ale Open 2025 presented by DISCRAFT.
First up on tee, sponsored by DISCRAFT from Denmark. Let's welcome Karl Johan Nybo.
KJ going to be kicking off our round 1 feature card front 9. And not known as particularly a power player, could be playing MP40 if he chooses, is opting to compete with the young guns. Known to shape discs very well, has great touch and control over the flight.
Second tee, sponsored by DISCRAFT from the United States of America. Let's welcome Ricky Wysocki.
Ricky, of course, a fan favorite wherever he goes, not only for his playing skills, but also a very warm persona, easy to approach. He's going with an overstable disc, needs to sit down before going left OB.
Saved by the log, Elias catches it. That had a lot of speed.
Sponsored by Lucky Discs, representing Finland. Welcome, Daniel Davidsson.
And while Daniel is very experienced playing in Europe on the highest of levels, this is still a big spot for him. You know, he's with arguably world's number 1 or number 2 player, has Ricky, and a huge event, the biggest one we've had so far in Europe. Absolutely not showing any nerves on hole number 1. Beautiful shot with an overstable distance driver.
Last up on the box, sponsored by MVP Disc Sports, representing Estonia. Welcome, Mauri, Villmann.
This is a man here who, when he's hot, he is scorching hot. We saw it in Konopiste. We saw it. He was your PDGA Europe 2023 Player of the Year. He is incredibly with an incredibly high ceiling in terms of his performance. Very comfortable both backhand and forehand. And I feel like Elias, this season, he has more power than ever, both ways.
Absolutely. And a great showcase of that here on that first hole. Actually leaving it a little bit short there. Going for more of a control shot than trying to flash the basket for an ace. And I'd say the most special thing about Mauri is that when he's on, he makes it look more casual than any other player on tour.
An incredible support from the locals here on Friday in Sweden. The crowds and energy were immaculate here at the Ale Disc Golf Center.
A decision here for KJ, just laying up. That's a good play on hole number 1, as you can easily have that 7-meter tester coming back if you run the basket and miss. Obviously everybody else close enough where they don't really have the option to lay up. This is definitely a putt you want to make if you're Ricky.
Yeah, if you watch that MDG practice round with Ricky, Ezra and Max, Rick said that this range is basically a tap-in for him. It's a different feeling in tournament though. Scores are on the line, but that's on the pole.
Looked very much like a tap-in. It's going to be interesting to see the difference between Mauri's and Ricky's putt, both being respectively some of the best putters from their continents. And Mauri there, really surprising miss. Could probably count with the fingers of my right hand how many times he missed a putt like that in Konopiste.
If we're in a new place, it's a new day. I find putting more than throwing varies day to day in terms of feeling and touch, getting the release right. We see birdies for both Rick and Daniel, Mauri and KJ walking away with the par. We continue here onto hole 2. A par 4, you want to throw a straight to softly leftwards ending shot here. Anything positioned between the tree line on the left and the bushes on the right will position you ideally into that sweet spot, but it's very easy to go too far along, pinching your angle, or fade a little bit too early and do the same on the early corner. Once you get to the base of this hill, you're looking up about 60 or so meters, where you see the basket perched on top. It's a very friendly backstop behind the basket. You can really just give something the height and speed and blast that rock behind it. It will normally settle pretty close. Nice little synchronized practice swing there between Rick and KJ.
Rick throwing the perfect looking shape, and yeah, you can't do that any better. He's gonna have no more than 45 meters. He's so close to the mouth of the gap that he can pretty much think about throwing it in for 2. This hole is actually extremely easy for being a hole on this Elite Series level course. Playing almost half a stroke below par on average, more than 50% of the field birding.
KJ playing a little bit more with the angles and the flip up. Had a steep hyzer release on the inside, gets it up to flat. He's come in a touch early, but I think will be able to manufacture something up the hill. He's close enough that there's often a large enough gap to choose from. Mauri with a nice height and width here as well, similar to Rick's, but a little bit more outside. He doesn't get it over the bushes, but filters through to the left. Very fortunate result for a throw that could have left him in a much worse position.
Agreed. I think that is the biggest mistake you can do on this hole, as Mauri, well, he got lucky, he still has a shot at birdie, and not the most difficult approach either, but that is basically the only spot on this hole besides going long which can really take out the birdie from play. And Mauri utilizing the luck. That's what great players do.
Take advantage of the good breaks. Daniel here. You can see these guys are almost encouraged to run the shot on the second because flying past the basket is maybe not even just the safest but the best play. So there really is no reason to not run it for the eagle if you have the ability and a gap large enough to get it up there. KJ sneaks his way up as well, just over the crest. We go to Rick for the anhyzer backhand.
Just the perfect spot to run it for the THRU. You could see he had a lot of speed on the disc. For some reason on this hole, if you hit the rocks on the backside of the basket, the discs don't really tend to roll. Whereas if you hit the front side rocks short of the basket, the roll away is almost more likely than sitting down. And we're gonna see a very likely star frame here on the second hole of the course. To be expected, I think all of these players were, already before they played the hole, they were looking forward to marking that 3 on the scorecard.
Certainly for this upper caliber of player, this is the hole that you need to get to stay on pace throughout the front 9. And we see the star frame for our feature card.
Moving on to a much more difficult one there, hole number 3, 163 meters, though we're playing far enough downhill where the distance probably plays closer to 140 or 135. You have a big island that is surrounded by OB. If you get away from the island, if you fade too far left or don't make the island at all, you have to go to a mandatory drop zone even if you cross. So important to be in bounds here. A couple of lines of the tee, you can go for a big hyzer or just a straight shot, a little flex with a stable disc. I would expect to see actually both, because the wind on this hole today was a bit of a left to right wind, so potentially pushing this hyzer down more than lifting it up.
This has a really nice speed and width, though he is crashing the green. Comes in just a little bit shy early, but managing the shot perfectly on the right gap is very difficult to do. It's more often the play just to give a safe inbounds long look. This line from Daniel, the straight at it flex, is the one that you go for most often when you're trying to really park it, and that is just extreme control of the disc by Daniel at long distance. What a pleasure to see that line.
Impressive display of angle control. To be honest, I'm really surprised that we saw it go this way around, that Ricky went for the hyzer and Daniel for the straight.
I'm surprised KJ is going for the hyzer, to be honest. We see a completely different reaction from his disc than the others, but very favorable outcome. Looked like it flipped over. Had enough flight to bring it back into the fairway. He's probably just outside Circle 2's edge.
Yeah, no problem there. Honestly, unless you're one of the best, absolute best players in the tournament, you're mostly just happy to be in bounds here. Even Mauri there, fading left but having a long putt. This hole only produced 8 birdies in the day, so definitely one of the harder ones. Third most difficult hole on the course.
We'll see if any of those were found by our feature card, KJ. Solid layup, a very common result and way to play the hole, given that it's so difficult to really get close to. Rick with a long look here. I'm not surprised if he's running this with full commitment. Oi, 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 he finds it to go 3 through 3. That is just a nasty putt in the wind and rain. The man cannot be stopped, Elias.
Look at the different style. Going from his normal pitch putt to the spin putt in the wind. I think that's what makes Ricky so impressive, that he's able to adapt. While his normal putt is very powerful, still able to switch it up. And Mauri there, that would have been very much of a signature Mauri putt, but just wide there on the right.
And just like that, 2 of those 8 birdies found, a quarter of the total birdies on hole 3 found by our feature card. No surprise, Daniel and Ricky, they are 3 through 3 right now. Let's see which one of them is able to find the lead at some point, as they are both playing a perfect round so far.
Mauri with a little cleanup here. And as you can see, the rain is pouring down. The rain was very much on and off during the day. There were times when the rain was coming down pretty hard, and then were times when it wasn't that present at all.
continue on here to hole 4, par 4, 200 meters, one of the more dangerous holes in terms of OB here. You have a straight shot that you want to throw about 110 meters to the sweet spot. You want to get just past this bush in the lower left frame to then give yourself a 90-degree look dogleg over this river of OB through this late gap in the trees as the drone flies up into this sloped green. There's just so many elements of this hole which you need to control perfectly to play it for the 3, that a 4 is a very reasonable score that a lot of players would walk away happy with. We see it averaging 4.44, almost a half stroke over par, and for good reason. We have Ricky on the box.
Ricky with a little Annie release there. It's the better side to miss on this hole. If you want to miss right or left, you'd always take right, as there's no OB on that right side. Though for Ricky, it's probably gonna be the case that the birdie is out of play. You really need a perfect, or at least a very good drive here to have a realistic, logical shot at birdie.
Daniel is the only person I've seen play that spike hyzer here on hole 4, but he's done it to perfection. He is exactly in the sweet spot you're hoping to land in. Go to KJ. No surprise to see him going with the hyzer flip straight. As you mentioned, Elias, the mistake is to err to the right side, so a lot of players will go with slightly more understability than maybe they need, just to mitigate the only risk, which is fading out left on the tee shot. That is truly the only real mistake you can make.
I really like the play that Mauri was trying to do there, so keeping the disc very low. I feel like you can either try to keep the disc so low that it doesn't have a chance to go OB left, or you can utilize that straighter flight. He kind of did both, which is of course not ideal. And Ricky here, this is gonna be just a play for par. He wants to get over the OB with a spike hyzer, trying to land about 30-35 in front of the basket. Pitch up for an easy par. As Connor said, the hole is averaging way above par, so a par here is gonna be the most okay of scores.
This is an attempted layup here by KJ, but he's given himself a lot of extra width than I believe what he's intended to do, and as a result will have a very difficult third shot into the green. Mauri from a nice spot here, looking to shape the Anheuser forehand flex. That is a beautiful flight. He makes the gap look absolutely huge into the circle. So that is a Mauri Villmann forehand right there.
Yeah, that is insane. Those are the kind of forehands that make me want to put him up there as one of the best forehand throwers in Europe right now. I don't feel like anybody else really has the type of angle control and distance as he does right now. We see Daniel, who normally has a very accurate forehand from that under 100 meters of distance, but sawing it off early, not gonna be a good birdie chance there. This hole has a very scary green, so from a position where Daniel is, it's almost a guaranteed layup.
Ricky doing what he can to scramble his way to the green. He's done well to fire through that rough. And we go to KJ, who's going to look to manufacture something very similar. In fact, he's going to that patent pending, I think, trying to go around through the intended gap, but on a spike Anheuser. That's smooth. That shows his experience right there. I think there's few players who have that degree of touch and control to maintain that flight so cleanly.
And Daniel there, as expected, just layup. Right, Mauri. This would be a great birdie, and there it is. Makes it look easy. Even though the second shot was borderline impossible for 95% of disc golfers playing the game, it doesn't look that tough for him.
Ricky finds his first par of round 1 here. Daniel as well in just a moment.
As we see the last tap-ins for par here. I think the camera is doing great justice right now as how lush the course is looking. The course is very green, Grass is looking perfect. And just very natural course. Very few courses we have are able to utilize the landscape as well as Ale Disc Golf Center, and I believe that's one of the factors that makes it #2 ranked course in the world on UDisc. As we're moving on to one of the easiest holes on the course. Hole 5 is only 92 meters, flat ground, no uphill, no downhill here. It's basically just a straight shot. I'd say the difficult thing here, if there is any sort of difficulty, is that you have a bit of a gap to hit and also some sort of a low ceiling. You have about 5 meters of space from the ground up to the low ceiling. But for this caliber of players as we have on the card, this should be an easy straight shot forehand or backhand.
The backhand, I think, is the most natural shape in terms of getting the full flight as seen from above of the fairway. The forehand is maybe perhaps a little bit safer and often just crashing to the right side hill. You can filter back. Mauri, with supreme angle control and speed control, slides his way up to bullseye. Very smooth delivery to the green. Rick looking to do the same now. Couldn't quite tell what disc it was in his hand, but it looked significantly like an overstable profile. I think he's looking to start that out on Anheuser and have it fade back at the end of the flight. Catches the left tree line. He'll have a long look.
Yeah, I think Ricky definitely missed his line there a little bit. Daniel here with flip up sidearm. And there's the touch I was mentioning on the last hole. He's one of the touchier forehand players I feel like we see on tour. And KJ, of course, known for his smooth backhands. Great hole for him.
He pushes the full width, but is able to get up there to an open look at the putt. Maybe crouched underneath the branches, but I think his actual stroke and putt is open. A lot of enthusiasm all around the course. With overlapping fairways here at Ale White, you often hear reactions from crowds and players on other cards. That will cause a noise to be heard throughout the course. KJ with a stunning putt right there, securing the birdie.
You can see the very old school European spin putt, the stereotype that has been around for very long. I feel like all of the older European players used to have that nose-up spin putt, as Ricky showing the opposite, the stereotypical American putt, more nose down, slightly straighter arm. And we're gonna tap in for the second star frame of the round here. Good stuff from our feature card.
They will continue on to hole 6, a 103 meter significantly downhill par 3. This is a beautiful island hole. Players have a lot of choices. You'll often see one of two things, either a soft backhand putter turnover straight at it, trying to hit that fast green before the basket and slide on up, or a slightly overstable forehand that is either flexed or pushed to the left side and crashing late towards the right, trying to hit the island and stick it. But it is very fast. I think more important than anything is your speed and height control, because you need to land softly. As a result, players will throw something low speed, try to maintain a smooth, soft landing. Perfect type of forehand for Mauri.
I very much agree. He has those low speed discs under perfect control. Just hitting the angle he wants, and the speed is also perfect. He didn't look stressed at all on this hole. I feel like it's a great measure of the player's skill, this hole in specific, where I feel like the best players in the event are not really going to be stressed by this one, and the slightly lower rated ones, they're going to struggle. But Ricky, you can see, is definitely in that top percentile.
In fact, all three of these guys, Daniel, Mauri and Rick, have supreme touch on the forehands. Daniel not quite as close as the others, but very well hit, and that disc really had no choice other than to just head straight and hit the floor. Any fade right would have even been beneficial to him. KJ the lone backhand here.
Now this one needs to sit down hard. Not gonna be the case. Backhand there being, I'd say it's definitely the more difficult shot while the forehand can easily fade OB, the backhand, it's just so touchy. You have to start it on the left side and get that little turn.
And this drop zone, if you miss the island, is probably about 15-16 meters. KJ gives it a floaty bid. You see that wind beating up that floaty putt, smashes him down. Daniel as well, crazy wind reaction. You see him even throw his hands up, complete elevator on his putt up and down. But Mauri's putt very resistant to the wind with how much spin and velocity he puts on it.
Ricky there tapping in for 5 under start. Everybody on the card starting off pretty hot. KJ of course thinking the lone bogey here.
OTB is very specific on how they list the disc because they want you to like the disc.
Virtually in your hand tells you what the disc is going to feel like, how heavy it's going to be. It's everything you want to know before it shows up to your house.
Not just marketing.
It's only the best.
Moving on to the first par 5 of the round. Hole 7, 293 meters. Off the tee, you're usually trying to throw a backhand fairway driver that turns just slightly to the right. You want to get a good bit of distance off the tee, but most importantly, stay in bounds. Set yourself up for a big straight to hyzering second shot. Hopefully already getting a little bit around this curve at the last fourth of the fairway. If you throw 2 good shots off the tee and on the second, you're gonna have a pretty simple short approach to the green. But oftentimes your angle isn't that great on the approach and you have to work something that turns drastically to the left, bringing that inside OB into play.
And we see despite the trees on both sides, the wind is certainly a factor on this hole. Almost always Mauri getting a little bit smashed, but he's well positioned, had the soft turnover, had the flat landing. We see Rick going for a forehand here, which is most often considered the safe play, but that soft left to right slope can come into play quickly. And that's a huge 2 skips and a roll. I think that's a conservative play from Rick, resulting in an OB, quite an unfortunate circumstance for him, considering he was not trying to take on that additional risk.
Yeah, I think he's playing for the birdie with that forehand, but I really don't love the forehand play there. As you said, the slope is more left to right than anything else. And you see everybody else making it look pretty easy, even with their shots that came out a little bit low. All 3 of the backhands were too low out of hand to get that ideal distance. They were never in trouble of going for the right side OB. And that's what really eats you up on this hole. It's not the longest of par 5s. You only need about 100 meters off the tee, maybe 110, 120 on the second, ideally. So you don't need to bite off a lot of distance. So just being in bounds is paramount on this hole.
Yeah, and is totally more than enough to still be in play for birdie. We see Mauri erring to the long side, which is the right mistake to make. Might even not even be considered a mistake. If you just fire straight into that tree line, you remove the danger of OB left and really open up the angle, as once you get up towards that entrance to the green, it hooks almost 90 degrees or even backwards to the left. Daniel is in a premium position. Being able to see the basket after 2 means you've thrown 2 fantastic shots.
Very well done there. Ricky here trying to go for an overstable disc. A pretty big misrelease. The ground on this hole was quite slippery with that slope and also the rain that had been coming down throughout the entire day.
Come here.
Might have might have affected Ricky's shot just slightly. Even KJ here turning it over too far to the right. He's still likely to have some sort of a shot to the green. While it's not going to be a clean line, he still has a chance for birdie.
Ricky playing that stock hyzer around the corner. As we said, pushing it a little bit too straight is the most common play. He gets a touch punished for it, but I think we'll still have some sort of scramble. May not have the most comfortable backhand from his position. We will see it in a moment. KJ kicks left OB. Left side is really the only mistake, which is why you see so many players playing to the right to try to remove that from a possibility. Mauri just a little bit too low to catch the full flight or flex, but is up there for his birdie putt. Daniel premium position. We'll see if he can take advantage and provide himself a stress-free birdie. He's done it well.
Beautiful shot. Ricky similar position, just approaching for a bogey, I believe. It's gonna be good there. And let's see if KJ actually goes to where he crossed to the OB. Yeah, looks like he took a little relief, as if you go OB you can take relief in a straight line away from the basket with no extra penalty.
Go to Mauri from just outside the circle. And that's the Mauri we're used to seeing. We've seen a few misses from him, but he's 5 under now through 7. Looks effortless, Elias.
Effortless and beautiful, and I bet Mauri is liking the baskets that we have here, as they have slightly heavier chains than the common European baskets, the disc catchers and the latitude baskets.
They are brand new this week as well, not just about the construction of them and the three-tiered system, but have only been in the ground for less than a week going into this weekend. These players are getting first chance at these DISCRAFT Chainstar Pros.
Exactly. KJ, of course, being a DISCRAFT guy, very familiar with this type of basket. Unfortunate bogey for him. He was actually in great birdie position there, just not quite taking advantage, and a lot of spread on this hole. 2 birdies and 2 bogeys in the card.
Here we see the flyover of hole 8, a 132 meter par 3. You have this pond in the middle, but it doesn't really come into play for anyone. More of an aesthetic choice in addition to the hole. You do, however, have OB lining the right side. If you overturn into those trees to the right, it is possible you find yourself OB. A lot of people are going to be playing a hyzer flip or soft flex, aiming at that tree to the right of the frame and trying to fade just before it. Very gettable for this caliber of player, and the only thing really to manage here appropriately is often the wind, which is difficult to feel from the tee, because as you throw out into the open valley, it's a very different circumstance than what you can feel. But Mauri has put 4 together in a row now. This looks like it could give him a chance at 5.
Absolutely a chance. While he did fade too far left, I'd say that is the better mistake to make, as if you turn it over to the right, you're often in bad trouble. Daniel here going with something pretty stable. Looks like there is definitely some wind out there. Just look at the speed of the disc. His disc came to the basket in no time at all, showing off the release speed that he has on the disc. Definitely one of the further throwing players in Europe.
I think that might even have been one of Daniel's fairway drivers, not even a distance driver. We go to Ricky here, who gets himself overturned as well as smashed by the wind. He's going to be at the hill's edge, maybe not even able to see the basket, depending on how far down he went. We go to KJ. Has a little bit of a slip, yeah, and not super comfortable looking release, but fading left is the right mistake. That's an easy 3 at worst.
Yeah, not a bad result, honestly, for a slip on the tee. I think the tee pads they have at all are excellent, but of course as the mud and water builds up through the day, even the best tee pads do get a little bit slippery here. And Ricky just outside the circle, good chance at birdie, confident putt.
I completely misunderstood where his lie was, Elias. I thought he was shorter down the hill, but he was right up there.
Yeah, I guess that might have actually been Ricky's par putt. Maybe we missed the approach there.
Makes sense. We go now to Mauri. So smooth, off the knee, awkward stance. His type of spin putt is so favorable for those awkward stances because he can just generate the power from the arm alone.
Daniel there, no sweat for the birdie. Very clean looking card, both Daniel and Mauri keeping it only green and black. No bogeys staining their card yet, as we move on to the final hole of the front 9. Hole number 9 is a beautiful downhill straight shot. The shape is very similar to the last hole, only this time we're going about 15 meters further and about 10 meters downhill. So a great play here is gonna be to throw something very far downwards. Ideally hit something slightly in front of the basket and slide your way up. Also going downwards improves your chances of not fading out early. You can actually throw something quite stable here if you just throw it downwards, or players sometimes go for more of a hyzer flip shape. Very interesting to see the differences in stability of discs that these players choose.
Certainly, I think it very much plays to their shot preference. We see Mauri going for something significantly understable, steep hyzer release, the late flip, and fantastic control on a purely straight flight, despite being all the way from hyzer angle to slightly anhyzer at the end. It only ever really moved forwards. Fantastic way to play this hole. Daniel with a very similar line. Steep hyzer release, late flip up. Two beautiful shots there here on hole 9. They make this hole look much more simple than it feels from the tee, Elias.
I can tell you that from experience. I think I speak for both of you, and especially, well, not especially, but also for all of our viewers. This hole is not nearly as easy as it looks on coverage here. And Ricky here, not the greatest of shots, still putting. I think he chose that more overstable disc, try and throw it downwards and even on slight flat to flex angle. Just release it on slightly more higher than he wanted to.
I think no question here, KJ likes to use the understability when it's available to him, but you see that punished a little bit by the overturned shot, filters into the tree line to the right and drops shy. He is probably 35 or so meters looking up the hill. Can give that a little run though. That backstop on the hill is very favorable, allowing you to chance it even when you're not that close to the basket. Ricky as well within striking distance. All things considered, there's very little danger in giving it a full bid.
Let's see if KJ runs the basket here. No, just putting it below, but with a weird reaction from the wind. And I think we saw Ricky make the same putt in the practice round. Let's see how he does this time.
Oh, that looked so healthy. Just the camera angle alone, I assumed it was going in.
These MDG guys sure know how to trick the perception of the viewer. And there you go. Mauri with the second missed putt from inside the circle during this round. He's made a couple of big putts, but also missing a couple of the shorter ones. You normally don't see that from him. And Daniel with a clean 7 under front 9. Incredible shooting, honestly.
6 under, which Mauri will take with this par, is good. 7 under is absolutely amazing, considering that the first few holes are maybe some of the hardest in terms of just getting settled into the round and the requirements made of the player. To be able to beat that stretch and by such a margin is incredibly impressive. We see 7 for Daniel, 6 for Mauri. Both Rick and KJ below them. 4 under for Ricky and even for Mr. Nybo. That is 9 holes into Ale Open. We have kicked off this exciting event at what many refer to as Disc Golf Paradise. Elias, how are you feeling looking forward to the back 9?
Man, that was a quick front. I feel like we saw so many birdies, so many highlights from just those short 9 holes, and the course is looking incredible. We're gonna see a little different side of this course, more wooded on the back. Hope to catch you guys there, and let's see some birdies.
Heyo, catch you there.